You're listening to the West Salem Foursquare Church podcast. For more information and to plan a visit, go to wsfc.org.
Oh, good morning, friends. It's good to see you all. How you doing? Good. Hey, I'm excited to bring the word this morning, and man, oh man. Before we even get rolling, I'm just going to give you what you came for. I'm just going to give you what you want off the bat, so we can just get out of the way. You know what I'm saying? We'll just get out of the way, because I know you really want to see the picture of my little girl, Lydia. She's 8 weeks old. Isn't that the best, you guys? Oh my goodness. And then there's another one with the pumpkin patch. Oh my gosh. Come on. Does that not get you just, oh man. How many know I just haven't slept in about 8 weeks? Yeah. Or really eaten or done anything other than just wipe butts for 2 months. So in the spirit of that, it is really good to be here with you, because I don't have to wipe any butts up here. That I know of. I don't know. Who knows? Okay. So it's good to be with you guys. You're going to need your Bible today, and you can open up to the book of Joshua, chapter 7. We're going to be camping out in chapter 7 and chapter 8 today, and we're going to cover a lot of ground this morning. So we're going to read a lot of text, okay? So, but I promise it's worth it. So we're going to get through some text today, 7 and 8. You guys have been in a series for some time now called Faith Forward. You're looking at the book of Joshua, and we're going to continue that series this morning, looking at 7 and 8. And there's something happening in the book of Joshua. There's something happening, and it's easy as modern Western, American readers. We can read the book of Joshua and be a little bit disgusted, okay, or be a little bit shocked. You can see some things where you think, that is just barbaric. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's things happening in this book that should shock you, okay? So that's not a wrong impulse. But there's something else happening in this book. There's something else happening beneath the surface, okay? So I want to take some time today and pull apart chapter 7, pull apart chapter 8, and my hope is that in doing that, we can get below the surface to see what God is doing beneath all of the things. But my hope is to get beneath the surface of our hearts today, beneath the surface of our souls today, because I think there's some things happening in us. There's some things happening in this story, but there's also some things happening inside of us that I want to get at today using this story. Are you with me today? Okay. So you're going to need your Bibles. There's something in the book of Joshua. You have the people of God, the people of Israel, are entering the promised land, but they realize that there's other people there already, okay? So they step into the promised land and go, oh, we thought this was going to be easy, but there's people already there. And so the book of Joshua it reads like a military log in some ways. There's just battle after battle after battle, but the reason for these battles is it's the people of God trying to take possession of the land that God had promised them originally, okay? And there's a question at the heart of this. At the heart of the book of Joshua, there's a question bubbling beneath the surface, and it's a question from God to his people. And he's asking, are you going to do this with me, or are you going to try to do it without me? Which really is the question beneath the whole body of Scripture. The whole book of the Bible is really, at the bottom, a question where God says, are you going to try to do life with me or without me? How many of you know that's kind of a question that's seething or kind of bubbling within your soul sometimes? Am I going to do this on my own strength, or am I going to trust God to be who he says he is? Are you with me today? So in the book of Joshua, you have a people who've been called to inherit a promised land, but there's someone already there, and they need to trust God. They need to do it with him and not try to do it on their own strength. How many of you know that's a human impulse, to try to do things on your own strength? Raise your hand if you have trouble accepting help from other people. Are you guys with me? As humans, we struggle to trust other people to help us, and we try to do life on our own strength, and that's what's happening here in the book of Joshua. Will you do this with me, or will you try to do this on your own? So as we read the book of Joshua chapter 7 and 8, I want to give you a couple of tips. I just want to give you a couple of inside looks that will help us along the way, so you're not mad at me through this whole story, okay? So number one, two things. Number one, we have to understand that the book of Joshua and the entire Old Testament was written not in English, okay? Did we know that today? Okay, did I just blow anybody's minds today, okay? The book of Joshua was not written in English. It was written in Hebrew. And over 2,000 years was translated into Greek and Latin and into English ultimately. Now, there's a word that's used over and over in this story. And it's like a military term. It's meant to describe like a group of soldiers, like a battalion or what, I don't know the right term, a group of soldiers. Somehow along the way, this English word got translated as thousands, okay? There's a Hebrew word for a group of soldiers, and in English, we for some reason translated it thousands. And it's very misleading, and you'll see that as we go along the story. It'll start to just not make sense, that word thousands. It really should mean like between 10 and 30 soldiers, like a group, okay? So just note that along the way. So I'm not trying to trick you, okay? Number two, there's one other thing I want you to know. In the Bible, we are looking at an Eastern audience, okay? Everyone in this room comes from a Western worldview, a Western Americanized perspective, okay? Which is very, very individualistic. Nod your head if you know what I'm talking about, okay? You be you. You know what I'm talking about? You be you, boo-boo, is what they say. I don't say that. Other people do. In the West, we're all about a personal identity. It's don't let anyone tell you who you are. You be you. But that's not the case throughout the Bible. All of Scripture is written to an Eastern, very, very communal worldview, where an individual would find their value and their place in the midst and in the context of a larger group or a tribe. You would know who you are because you know where you fit within a tribe, which means that all of your actions have not just individual consequences, but corporate consequences, okay? So this whole idea is completely foreign to us, okay? Completely foreign. So just know that as we read this story, you're gonna see things, you're gonna hear things where your Western mind goes, wait, hold on, that's not fair. That doesn't add up, that doesn't make sense. And it's because it doesn't to us, but to them it did. This worldview is present still today in much of the Middle East and much of Africa. You have a communal identity where actions have communal and corporate consequences. So we're going to see that play out in the story. But we're going to start in verse 1, and I'm going to read, bear with me, follow with me, it'll be on the screen, but we're going to read from verse 1 all the way through the entire chapter 7. We're going to catch a little bit of chapter 8. And I'm going to summarize chapter 8 for us, okay? I'm going to just kind of skim through it, and then we're going to end looking at the last part of chapter 8, where God renews his covenant with his people. So let's start reading in verse 1 of chapter 7. This is the story of Achan and the city of Ai. It says, but the Israelites were unfaithful in regard to the devoted things. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about Jericho here. And they took the loot from Jericho. Or they were asked to burn it. They were asked to not take the loot, but somebody took some. So it says they were unfaithful to the devoted things. It says, Achan, son of Carmi, son of Zimri, son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, took some of those things. So the Lord's anger burned against Israel. Now Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is near Bethaven, to the east of Bethel, and he told them, go up and spy out the region. So the men went up and spied out Ai. Now, did God tell them to go to Ai? No. Who told them? Not your question. Joshua, right? Okay, the book is called, right? So Joshua tells the people, go. God did not instruct them to go to Ai. Joshua did. Verse 3. When they returned to Joshua, they said, not all of the army will have to go against Ai. Send 2,000 or 3,000 men to take it, and do not weary the whole army, for only a few people live there. So about 3,000 men went up, but they were routed by the men of Ai, who killed about 36 of them. Now, if this is really 3,000 men, how many of you know if you lose 36, you're still in good shape, okay? Still looking good. Not time to retreat, okay? So this gives us a little bit of indication that this is probably like 60 to 90 men, more likely, than 3,000. So if you got 90 guys and you lose 36, you bolt. You know what I'm saying? You get out of there. So they lose 36. And they're chased. It says in verse 5, they chased the Israelites from the city gate as far as the stone quarries and struck them down on the slopes. At this, the hearts of the people melted in fear and became like water. Then Joshua tore his clothes and fell face down to the ground before the ark of the Lord and remained there till evening. The elders of Israel did the same and sprinkled dust on their heads. It says, and Joshua said, and catch this speech from Joshua. Joshua says, alas, sovereign Lord, why did you ever bring this people across the Jordan to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites to destroy us? If only we had been content to stay on the other side of the river. Pardon your servant, Lord. Do you hear like how kind of like sarcastic and bitter this is? Pardon your servant, Lord. What can I say now that Israel has been routed by its enemies? The Canaanites and the other people of the country will hear about this, and they will surround us and wipe out our name from the earth. What then will you do for your great name? Okay, whoa. Prayer tip, right? Maybe don't pray like that. Maybe be hesitant to, I don't know. Do you hear what Joshua is doing here with God? He's like, you brought us out here, and now we've been reduced to nothing, and we've been shamed in the whole region. Everybody's laughing at us. In fact, they're just going to come here and wipe us off the face of the earth. What are you going to do about your reputation? Do you hear that Joshua has taken the responsibility of bearing God's reputation and just placed it on his shoulders exclusively? Do you hear what's happening here? Joshua's like, what are you going to do without me? Okay. What are you going to do without us here? Now catch this. This is the Lord's response to Joshua in verse 10. The Lord said to Joshua, stand up. What are you doing on your face? Oh, right? What are you doing on your face? Israel has sinned. They have violated my covenant, which I commanded them to keep. Now God's being really clever. That word violated is the same word that in Hebrew that Joshua just used when he said crossed the river. So God is like playing with him. He's like throwing a pun back in his face. He's like, I helped you cross the river and now you're crossing my covenant. What's going on here? What's going on? I held up my end of the bargain. So God says, Israel has sinned. They violated my covenant, which I've commanded them to keep. They've taken some of the devoted things. They've stolen, they have lied, and they have put them in their own possession. That is why Israel cannot stand against their enemies. They have turned their backs and run because they have been made liable to destruction. And God says, I will not be with you anymore unless you destroy whatever among you is devoted to destruction. So God is saying, hey, I've held up my end of the deal. I helped you across the river, but you're the ones who crossed my covenant. And God is saying, like, I can't go any farther here. I'm stopping here until you guys deal with some unfinished business internally. You guys have some internal issues you got to work out before we can continue this adventure into the promised land. You got to take care of some internal in-house issues before we can take care of some external issues. So God says, we're going to pause, and I'm going to let you work yourself out here. So verse 13, God tells Joshua, he says, go and consecrate the people. Tell them, consecrate yourselves in preparation for tomorrow. For this is what the Lord God of Israel says, there are devoted things among you. You cannot stand against your enemies until you remove them. Now it says, in the morning, present yourselves tribe by tribe. The tribe that the Lord chooses shall come forward clan by clan. And it says, the clan the Lord chooses shall come forward family by family, and the family will be chosen, and they shall come forward man by man. Do you see what's happening? It's like a game of deal or no deal that's happening. God's like, hey, just line yourselves up, and I'm going to start picking, and you guys can step forward, and we're going to narrow it down to find the hidden, devoted thing that was not taken care of. Let's pick it up in 16. It says, early the next morning, Joshua had Israel come forward by tribes, and Judah was chosen. The clans of Judah came forward, and the Zerahites were chosen. And he had the clan of the Zerahites come forward, and the family, Zimri was chosen. And Joshua had his family come forward man by man. And here's our boy Achan. Achan, son of Carmi, son of Zimri, son of Zerah, from the tribe of Judah, was chosen. Okay, we got our man. 19, it says, then Joshua said to Achan, my son, give glory to God, the God of Israel, and tell me, what have you done? Don't hide it from me. You can imagine Joshua, the elder in this tribe, is looking to this young boy probably and saying, oh, buddy, hey, shoot straight with me here. What'd you do? What's going on? You hiding something? And in verse 20, Achan replies, he says, it's true. I've sinned against the Lord, the God of Israel. This is what I've done. When I saw in the plunder a beautiful robe from Babylonia and 200 shekels of silver and a bar of gold weighing 50 shekels, I coveted them and I took them. They are hidden in the ground inside of my tent with the silver underneath. So he confessed. He fessed up. All right, I did it. Yeah. I saw some stuff. I took it. I didn't tell anybody. And it's hiding in my tent. So Joshua sent messengers, and they ran to the tent, and there it was, hidden in his tent with the silver underneath. And they took the things from out of the tent, brought them to Joshua, and all of the Israelites spread them out before the Lord. You can imagine the entire nation is just all gathered, tribe by tribe, and they laid the items out on the ground. Verse 24, it says, then Joshua, together with all of Israel, took Achan and all that he had, the silver, the gold, the robe, and his sons and daughters, cattle, sheep, his tent. And it says, Joshua said, why have you brought this trouble on us? The Lord will bring trouble on you today. Then all of Israel stoned him, and after they had stoned the rest, they burned them. Over Achan, they heaped a large pile of rocks, which remains to this day. Then the Lord turned from his anger. Therefore, that place had been called the Valley of Acre, or the Valley of Trouble, ever since. Okay, everyone doing okay? Okay, it's quite a story. What happens next, and we're going to read here just in a portion of chapter 8, is God then gives them instructions to go take the city of Ai, and they do. But they do it a little bit differently. In chapter 8 of verse 1, we'll quickly read, it says, then the Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid, do not be discouraged. Take the whole army with you and go up and attack Ai. For I have delivered into your hands the king, his people, his city, and his land. You shall do to Ai and its king as you did to Jericho a couple chapters ago, except that this time you may carry off their plunder and livestock for yourself. Set an ambush for the city. Okay, do you see what just happened there? God's like, hey, I know last time I told you not to keep the loot, but this time, it's all yours, man. Have at it. Go for it. Yeah, go back and attack the city again, but this time, keep all the plunder, keep the loot. It's all yours. Don't even worry about it. Now, here's the big idea I want to throw down today. I want to throw down the idea that God might not be as concerned about what you do in your life and far more concerned about how you do the things in your life. I want to propose to you that God, more than anything, wants your heart. He wants your heart. God does not simply want your obedience. He does not want your compliance. In the end, he ultimately desires your heart to be submitted to him. And what we see here in the book of Joshua is we see the people of Israel take a run at Ai on their own strength. God didn't tell them to go, and they disobeyed his orders, and there was hidden sin in the camp. And they tried to take the city on their own, and it didn't work. And God said, okay, let's try it again. Let's take care of some internal business, and then take another run at it. This time, keep the loot. It's all yours. And they're successful. So all of chapter 8 basically chronicles them taking the city and ambushing it, and the whole plan works, and everything is just great. They take that much more ground of the promised land. Now, if we fast forward to chapter 8, verse 30, we're going to catch the end of this story. And this is where the people gather again, and God renews his covenant with them. It says in verse 30 of chapter 8, "Then Joshua built on Mount Ebal an altar to the Lord, the God of Israel, just as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded the Israelites. He built it according to what is written in the book of the law of Moses, an altar of uncut stones on which no iron tool had been used. On it, they offered to the Lord burnt offerings and sacrificed fellowship offerings." All of that is gibberish to us, okay? All of that is complete nonsense to us, but it's significant because this is what happened in the Old Testament with Moses when God first made a covenant with his people. So they're almost like reenacting. It's almost like a reconfirmation of God's love for them. They're renewing their vows in some way. And it says all of the Israelites with the elders, the officials, the judges, they were standing on both sides of the Ark of the Covenant, which is representing God's presence with his people. So they circle around God's presence. And it says, facing the Levitical priests who carried it, both the foreigners living with them and the native borns were there. Half of the people stood in the front of the Mount Gerizim and half of them in front of Mount Ebal, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had formally commanded them to bless all of the people of Israel. And it says this, catch this. In verse 34, afterward, Joshua read all of the words of the law, the blessings and the curses. That's important. Joshua opened the book of the law and read the blessings and the curses, all of it. Verse 35, there was not a word of all that Moses had commanded that Joshua did not read to the whole assembly of Israel, including the women, the children, and the foreigners who were living among them. Okay, you can close your Bible. I think God is way more concerned with having your heart. I don't think God is as concerned about getting your obedience and your compliance to what he says. I think in the end, he desires your heart to be fully submitted to him. My son David is 2 years old. And any parents of young kids in the room? Okay, we all gotta go take a nap right now. Okay? My son David is 2 years old. And he's at that phase in his life where he, in order for him to do anything, it has to be his idea. And I don't think this phase is gonna end, okay? I think it's gonna go all the way through his 20s. I'm not sure, but in order for him to do anything, it has to be his idea. And a couple of days ago, we were cleaning our living room because it was a complete disaster, okay? And we looked to our kids and we said, hey, we're gonna clean up our toys, we're gonna clean up the living room. And I looked to my son, David, he's 2 years old, and I said, David, do you see that shoe right there? Can you put it in that box right there? It was literally like 3 feet away, okay? We have a little bin for their shoes. And I said, David, can you pick up your shoe and put it in the box? And he just wouldn't do it. And what he would do is this. He would pick up the shoe and he would look at me and he would walk like across the room and just set it somewhere and go, here? No, David, in the bin, in the shoe bin. I know you know what I'm saying. And he'd pick up the shoe and walk to the other side of the room. Here? David? And now you can, like as a dad, just my blood is boiling at this point. I'm losing my cool, okay? And Lindsay's just really cool. I don't know how she does it, but I'm losing my cool. I'm like, David, put the shoe in that bin. I'm just like, I'm going to pull my hair out. And he just would not do it. And I finally just said, I got to take a break. Lindsay, I just need a minute to collect myself. You guys know what I'm talking about. And I come back in and the shoe's in the bin because Lindsay, I don't know what she did, but yeah, she's magical. I don't know how she does it. I realized, I was asking myself, why on earth did that shoe get me so stinking amped up? What about that shoe? And I started to just assess myself, and I realized I don't even really care about the shoe. I don't really even care. I could do it myself if I wanted. I don't even really care about the shoe getting from there to there. What I care about is that he listens to me and he obeys my voice. But even deeper than that, obviously, parents, we want our kids to obey us. Yep. It kind of makes parenting easier. Are you with me? Okay. But in the end, as parents, we all know we don't really care about the obedience. We care about, do I have your heart? Is your heart submitted to me? not in some petty power game, but in a deep relationship? Is your heart with me? And it's almost as if like I look to my son and say, I don't care about the shoe. I just want you to listen to my voice so that down the road when I want to go on an adventure with you, you'll say yes. Are you with me today? I want to know that he's going to say yes to the shoe so that down the road when I say, would you go on an adventure? Would you go on a journey with me? He'd say, yes. I've been saying yes to you all along. My heart is submitted to you. I want to propose to you that today I think God is looking to you and saying, is your heart submitted to me? Because I have an adventure in store for you. I have an adventure in store for you. But if you're not submitted fully to me, you're never going to say yes. God wants your heart, and he wants all of it. What we see from this story is that God is not content with having 99% of Israel submitted to him. He wants 100%. He wants the whole thing. God's not content with having part of his people committed to him. He wants the whole thing. And I want to propose to you today that God is not content with half of your heart. He wants the whole thing. But there's a tendency in me, to withhold parts of my heart from the Lord and say, God, take all of me, have my life, have my soul, it's all yours. But don't look under that tent over there, right? That's mine, don't touch that. I'll give you everything else. I trust you with it all, Jesus, but please don't look beneath that tent over there because I'm not ready to show you all that. I haven't had time to clean that up yet. I haven't had time to brush that up. So God, don't look over there. I believe God wants your entire heart. I believe God wants the entire camp. He wants every tent in your soul. But I believe there's an Achan in the heart of us all. Are you with me today? There's an Achan, there's a tent that we don't want anyone to look at in the recesses of our soul that we say, God, not there, I'm not ready. It's interesting that Achan stole what amounts to about 7 pounds of silver and gold and hid it under his tent. Now, 7 pounds, what this equals out to is the exact amount of a lifetime's worth of wages in that day. So what Achan had was a lifetime worth of wages hidden under his tent. And here's the problem. Here's why this is so devious, is that if Achan had that amount of cash hidden in his tent, he does not have to depend on anybody else for the rest of his life, even God. He doesn't need God to provide for him for the rest of his life. How many of you know that's an intriguing premise? That is a tempting premise. If I just work and get everything figured out for my life, then I don't have to lean on anybody. I don't have to trust God for anything. I'm fully self-sufficient. And how many of you know that's like an American core value, okay? That's like in the fabric of the air we breathe is self-reliance. And God says, I will not move another inch with you unless you figure out that problem. I want your whole heart, fully dependent on me, and then we can go forward. He says, stop taking your life into your own hands and put your life in my hands. In some ways, Achan took his life literally into his own hands. Isn't it interesting that what began as an ancient story is actually a very, very real story for us? It's a very, very human story that plays out in my soul every day. We have an Achan hiding in the camps of our heart, and God invites us to come out and confess. Give me your whole heart. God's way more concerned with the posture and the attitude of my heart. There's something that happens when you and I lay our heart out before the Lord and ask him to see everything. What happens is when I try to cover things before the Lord, he reveals them because he loves me. He pulls the Band-Aid off because he loves me. And inversely, when I reveal things before God, he covers them because he loves me. And that's the beauty of this, is we have a Father who we can trust with our entire life because he created us. He created us. There's an interesting question here in all of this. as I was reading yesterday, I thought, why didn't Achan just confess earlier? Why did he have to go through that whole deal or no deal process of God calling out tribe, family, clan? Like, why did he? I mean, you can imagine this young kid just sweating every time Joshua was like, Judah, and he just started sweating, right? Yeah, your dad. Okay, oh my gosh. And he's just like, he's sweating more and more and more. He's like, I think I'm gonna get found out here. Why didn't he just fess up earlier? And I have to imagine that as he was standing in the ranks among all of his peers and his family, he probably thought, there's got to be someone else out here who stole more than I stole. And hopefully, maybe they'll find that guy first before they get to me, and I'll be okay. This is a human story, am I right? How have you, okay, I'll speak for myself. I find myself looking to other people and saying, at least I'm not as bad off as that guy is. I think I'm okay. Or maybe, okay, my life doesn't look as bad as hers does, so I think God's good with me. He's got bigger fish to fry than my sin. You know what I'm talking about. I want to propose to you today that God does not look at your family and just say, let's take care of the big stuff first. He looks at your family and he looks at you and says, let's deal with you. Let's deal with your stuff first. Between you and your spouse, I promise you that God is not looking at you and your spouse and saying, actually, she's got some stuff we got to deal with first, and if we have extra time, we'll get to you. No. He's getting to both of you guys, okay? At the same time. There's not a priority list of sin for God. God desires our whole heart. And sometimes he goes after the little things first. And time spent comparing my sin to your sin is time I'm not spending dealing with my sin. Are you with me today? Okay. Okay. We're going to stop talking about that. Okay. Sin has a way of dividing our hearts. In this story, you see Israel lined up tribe by tribe by tribe. When there's sin hidden in the camp, the only way they can get to it is because they're completely divided. And you fast forward to the end of the story. Once the sin was dealt with, you see the people gathered together in one group. There's something that happens in our hearts when we have sin hidden in the recesses of our soul, is you have to cordon it off. You have to partition it away in order to function normally. You have to hide it. But there's something beautiful that happens when we reveal every room, every tent in our heart and say, God, have full reign. There's healing that happens in your heart. You're made whole. The people went from standing tribe by tribe, looking at each other suspiciously, to now standing together as one group, one family. The first time they gathered before Joshua with sin hidden in the camp, they were surrounded, they were all gathered around Achan, this sin, this thing that was hidden. And you fast forward to chapter 8, and the people are now surrounded, and what's at the center is the ark, is God's presence. And what else? The Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. God's word. At the end of the story, once the sin had been confessed, they could now place God's word and God's presence at the center of their family and say, okay, now this is what we're about. It has a way of dividing our hearts. I think about my own life when I've had sin that was unconfessed and tucked away. I could manage, but there was a part of my soul that was fractured. And it's not until I bring it before the Lord or I bring it before others that I've harmed and say, I've been hiding this. And it's hurting me and it's hurting others. And you build an altar there. You place a pile of stones to say, I'm not going to forget what God has done here. When we submit our hearts and we allow God full access, there's a healing work that happens in our souls. And you can see this all throughout the story. God invites the Israelites to lay themselves out tribe by tribe, family by family. He invites the people of God to open up the Torah, the law, and lay it all out, the blessings and the curses, and read the whole thing. Lay it all out before him. Take all of Achan's things and lay it out before him. There's this process where God is helping his people learn how to lay their hearts out before the Lord completely and take their hands off their hearts. I'm learning that I can either try to control my life or I can have an adventure with Jesus, but I can't have both at the same time. I can control my life or I could submit it, but I can't do both. I have to choose. And I hope that I choose the latter. I hope that I choose adventure with Jesus over controlling my future. But in fear, in scarcity, in vulnerability, I often shrink back and say, no, God, I've got this under control. Let me just tuck something under this tent, just in case your character isn't what I think it is. Just in case you're not as faithful as you say you are, I've got a backup plan. But God invites you to open your grip and surrender your heart before him and say, God, have all of me. And there's something miraculous that happens when we surrender. You can almost imagine the picture when Joshua opened the law, which the law is the story of their life, right? The Israelites, the book of the law is the story of their life with God, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And at the end of this story, God asks them to open up the law and read the blessings and the curses, the good and the bad. And God looks at them and he renews his covenant with them. And he says, I'm still your Father. Yeah, read the whole thing. You lay it all out. Get everybody around in a circle. Let's all read this together. And despite the blessings and despite the curses, despite everything you've done, I'm still your father and you're still my son. You're still my daughter. No matter what you do or what you hide from me, I'm still your dad. And do you see how healing this is? When we hold our hearts out before the Lord and say, God, do you still love me? Despite what I've done, despite where I've been. My story's got blessing and it's got curses and it's all mashed in together. And God, I haven't had time to clean it all up yet, but Lord, are you still my father? And God looks to his people and says, yeah, I'm still your father. Yeah, my covenant, I'm still holding up my end of the covenant. Will you hold up yours? I haven't let my side of the deal down yet. I want to invite us today, if you're able, stand to your feet, and I wonder if you could hold your hands out in front of you as a posture of just holding your heart out before the Lord. As we hold our hands out, I want you to imagine you just holding your life out before the Lord. And almost like an origami style, you're just unfolding it, unwrapping it, and laying it flat out before the Lord. All of the little corners that you've been hiding, all of the recesses that you've tried to guard from his presence, lay it out before him and say, God, what do you see? I see a mess. I see a mix of blessing and I see a mix of curses all thrown together. I've seen ups, I see downs, I see mistakes, I see victories. Heck, I see more mistakes than I do victories. God, here's what I've got though. Here's my life. Here's my story. What do you have to say about me? And I believe God would look at you today and say, I am still your father. I was there when you were on the bottom. I was there when you were on the mountaintop. I've always been there for you. I've always held up my end of this covenant. My love for you has never changed. I think God would invite you to place your trust fully in him. You don't have to try to do it on your own strength. You don't have to try to control your way through life. You can surrender because our Father is good. And he loves you. And he wants what's best for you.
Thanks for listening to the West Salem Foursquare Church podcast. For more information and to plan a visit, go to WSFC.org.